Hey guys, Joe the Android guy. Root, what is it? Why do we need it? And do we still need it? That's what we're going to talk about today on the Android Guy Weekly. So a couple topics. What is root? What is super user? And something interesting that we'll save for the end. All right. What is root? Well, root, no, we're not talking about plans. Root is the ability to run programs with low-level permissions. Basically, you're running all the way down. You can do anything you want. Install system files, modify system files, delete system files. That's root. Now, root doesn't operate like you'd think it will unless you have a user who can basically take advantage of the root level permissions. And that user is called super user. So behind me, I've got a desktop computer. It's running Windows 7, and it comes rooted out of the box. Or rather, it's not protected from being able to run root level stuff. Mac, same thing. Now, both Mac and Windows and Linux to a little bit different extent, they all have the ability to control what the user, and by user I mean the logged in person, not necessarily the person at the keyboard, but the person who's logged in has the ability to do. Now that in Windows is called UAC, User Account Control or User Access Control. So I'm logged in as a administrator, so I have super user rights. My machine is already rooted. If I wanted to, I could download and install a virus. I could download and install a word processor. And to the computer, there's really no difference. It's executable code. One lets me write, the next great novel. The other lets people steal my bank account stuff. You're not getting much though, just FYI. Same permissions, and it's not cool. Same on Mac, so Windows is not the only people in the game that are at risk. Smartphones and tablets, on the other hand, they don't give you root access, and it's not just for this reason. They let you run only as a user, not as an administrator or a super user. Because of that, you're not able to do a lot of stuff. In the past, you haven't been able to, say, turn on the flash on your camera and turn your phone into a flashlight when you need it. Or turn on the flash on your camera and be able to scan that barcode in the dark or in low light because, well, you're not using the stock built-in camera that has direct access to those levels of things. Okay? You do now on Android because Google opened up an API. Aha, APIs. That's a hint at what we're going to talk about later. Okay? What else? I just got a tablet, and for some reason it would not keep time. I don't know why. So I downloaded an app that lets me synchronize the time with a time server on the internet. Great! Except it requires root. Why is that? Well, it actually will operate in two different functions. One is if you don't have root, it will tell you, here's the current time, now go change your clock manually. Okay. And the other is, hey, you've got root. Let me go ahead and take care of that automatically. In fact, how often do you want me to check? Once a day? Once an hour? Whatever. It'll do it automatically because it has root access. Now, same thing goes. If I downloaded a virus, for example, it could do all kinds of malicious stuff by having access to root. So, root and super user go hand in hand. Administrator privileges and whatnot may not be a good thing on a cell phone because, let's face it, most people out there aren't system administrators. I happen to be one for my day job, and so maybe I have a little bit different perspective than everybody else and need to be able to do other stuff because I know what I can do. So that may be where I'm different than a lot of people in the audience, perhaps. But I think you guys out there, you're a bit more tech savvy than the average phone user, for example, or the average tablet user. You want to do stuff and you know what you can do, and it's just this pesky little root thing that's getting in your way. That's where our little interesting tidbit comes in, and it's really the topic of our video. Steve Kondik, Cyanogen, you may know him as, the guy behind CyanogenMod, recently posted just kind of a thought. What do you guys think about taking out root? Whoa, Steve, what are you talking about? You live in root. But his thought was, instead of having root, instead of requiring CyanogenMod to have root to be able to run and do its regular daily activities. Instead, we've got complete access to the source code of this operating system and all of the stuff in the kernel. Why not write APIs? APIs are application programming interfaces. Essentially, they're hooks. You can say, hey, camera, please turn on your light. And if your camera has a light, it'll say, okay, and it'll do it. And it will return back through the API, okay, I did it. My light is on. And then you can say, okay, camera, turn off your light. And camera will, through this API, turn off the light and respond back, okay, light is off. Same thing with the clock, same thing with, whatever you want to think about. Exposing these APIs lets you talk through, the system utilities, which need to have root-like access already, and get them to do stuff. And that stuff is already predetermined. There's security put in place through the API itself, but you don't have to have root to be able to do it. You don't have to elevate to super user to be able to do this stuff. Really, really cool. So Steve's concept was, instead of requiring that we have root and opening the door up for malicious software to be able to take advantage of that fact, let's go ahead and scale back so we don't have to have root to be able to run the core functionality of CyanogenMod ROMs. Instead, let's write those APIs so apps can talk to the system utilities rather than directly to the hardware or however else they're getting it done, because there's lots of ways to do it. Now, he did put in a little caveat. He said, no, I'm not trying to say we're taking away root forever and we shouldn't do that. People will still be able to root and run rooted stuff like normal. What he's saying is, what do you think about pulling out that requirement so you can do all of that cool stuff without it? And really, he's in a unique situation. Unlike Windows, if Windows were to turn off root altogether, oh my goodness, we would be in a terrible, terrible situation because we couldn't do most of the stuff. And the only people that could fix that would be Microsoft. Same thing goes with Apple. If they turn that off on Mac, only Apple could expose those APIs and make it work. Android, the source is out there. It's open. We can literally write those APIs and do it ourselves. And as long as we're not opening up security holes there, it's probably a very, very good thing. But that leads us into a little bit of a quandary. And we'll just sum up on this. In order to install CyanogenMod, I have to root my phone, install a custom bootloader, or a custom recovery image rather, flash the ROM. I'm rooted to be able to do that. Now, we're talking about unrooting potentially, or are we talking about, maybe having some manufacturer out there pick up CyanogenMod as the stock ROM? Wouldn't that be cool? So that's our topic. What do you think? Do you think that root is too much, that we don't need it and we should replace it with APIs? What problems is that going to bring up? Or what problems is that going to solve? Comment down below and let us know. Do you think that, CyanogenMod might show up on a big brand name major OEM phone in the not too distant future? Maybe CyanogenMod 10? I don't know, but wouldn't that be cool? Go ahead and let us know your opinion on that down in the comments below as well. If you like the video, of course, give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so already so you don't miss out on next week's episode of the Android Guy Weekly. And head on over to PocketNow.com so you can check out reviews, hacks, tips, tricks, all kinds of stuff, and not just on Android. We cover almost everything. Head on over there. The website again, PocketNow.com. For PocketNow, I'm Joe the Android Guy, and this has been another episode of the Android Guy Weekly.